Welcome to episode 11 of issue 11 of the Dragon's Tome. Talking about Dragon Magazine, episodically, chronologically, epitomologically. I don't know, I lost it. December 77 this issue's from. My name is Rob.
And I'm Chopper.
And that's Jack.
Who's not talking?
Jack refuses to speak. Oh, Jack, what did you do?
I'm talking.
You weren't talking. You were silent. Anyways, this is episode 11. Like I said, the cover of this one is a wacky adventure. It's like a sideshow barker showing a ghoul to a naked ghoul at that, which I think that's why the kids are all like, "What the hell?" To a caravan. And it's got a lot of color. It's by Elro here. We've had this artiste before.
I don't think those are kids. I think those are Rubenesque women.
The one I question whether was born a woman.
Oh, there's the one whose top is off.
That's the one because it looks like she's got a goatee.
Yeah, there is some facial hair going.
She's the bearded woman with her top out.
Maybe it's a clown shoes. And there's a guy with like a flail or a cat and nine tails or something there. And the crazy... What are they? They remind me of something from Fraggle Rock, the horses.
Really?
But we only see the naked bum of the ghoul. So who's in chains. So I assume it's a ghoul. You guys think it's anything else but a ghoul?
I think it's one of those rare spotted ghouls. Could be a troll.
I thought it was a troll when, assuming that the captor is a human of human height, I assumed it was a troll.
Oh, yes. But, I assumed it was like a hobbit or something.
But that could be Orko.
Could be.
Or it could be the good wizard from that old cartoon around this time called Wizards.
Wizards.
You're a wizard. Anyways, I'm going to start because I talk about Dragon Rumbles. This episode of Dragon Rumbles on page 3, not much going on. Lots of fiction talk with Fritz Lieber writing a story in this issue. And Dragon has 2 employees now and will be monthly. So it's becoming a bigger thing in TSR. They must realize it's worth doing because they added another person to go help poor Timothy Cask. So we got another editor named Joe Orlowski. So there you go. Joe, welcome. I think he's from Little Wars.
Joe Orlowski.
And he's helping with Dragon Magazine now. So that's all that Dragon Rumbles is today. So
he's also a circulation manager.
Whatever that means.
And don't forget about the Snit errata sheet that will be coming out.
Well, there's lots of Snit talk. But, Jack, what's your first article from this one?
My first article would be page 31. Let's all meet at page 31, shall we?
All the way at the end. Whoa, not that far. 31. 31? Oh, 31.
31.
Oh.
Monsters, and more monsters. It is the Monster Manual for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. It's an ad for... And look at that carrion crawler. Like, you've seen it, you've loved it. That is right from the horse's mouth right there. We are looking at the birth of the D&D that we knew and
AD&D.
loved.
This is the very first product of AD&D.
Yeah.
Before anything else, this AD&D.
They didn't even release the Player's Handbook or the DM's Guide yet.
Nope. Monster Manual was the very first book from AD&D. So, yep, this is crazy. This is coming into real talk now, people. We're coming into full-on D&D, AD&D, the bestest.
No more Empire of the Petal Throne to throw us.
And you youngins talking about playing D&D. You're not playing D&D. You're playing AD&D. They just rebranded it. Because if you're playing D&D, you only got dwarves and humans and elves.
Yeah. You're playing
that's your character
race.
class. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah. It's funny now that everybody talks about D&D 5th edition or whatever. And it's not D&D, it's AD&D. Pathfinder, AD&D. So this is it. It's coming up.
But it's got the artwork that you know and love. It highlights the three illustrators who go through the book, who did the book, and it is now the real deal. So that's where I wanted to start this ad of sorts.
And one of the illustrators' name's Tom Wham. So we got Wham. $10 hardback. Very first hardback book too, I think. We haven't had hardback books. It's all been like pamphlets until now. So
a hardback book goes for the same price as the D&D basic set.
Yeah, basic set's a box set with dice. This is one book, so I assume people were like, "Wow, this is expensive." So
little did they know.
Yeah, now you're paying $40 for a hardback. Good one, good choice, Jack.
Thank you.
A classic. Pat, what's your first one?
My first one is going to take us back all the way to page 7.
Of course it is. You guys make me go back in and out. Yes.
And this is the D&D Brawling. It's the non-lethal combat system that everyone wanted.
I never wanted non-lethal. What's the point?
Because we wanted non-lethal because sometimes we'd be in a city and there we would try to do like bare knuckle fighting for money and not trying to kill. And so in the AD&D book, there's a way to do non-lethal combat, and it's very complicated. And as I read this, I was like, why wasn't this put in the AD&D book? Because this is so much easier to understand.
Because Robert J. Kuntz wasn't writing that book. It was Gary Gygax.
I know.
And Gary Gygax, if you could do it easy, he takes the long road.
But Robert Kuntz wrote a bunch of other stuff too for role playing. I just don't know. I recognize the name, but I don't. I can't remember what he's written.
Maybe. I bet we'll find that often. That we'll be like, oh, this article is written by somebody famous. We'll see.
Yeah.
Brawling.
So, it's a little. There's some things there that could be changed a little bit now, but that's all hindsight 2020 kind of thing. But as far as I was concerned in reading this was a little more easy to grasp and implement into a game than what you would have saw in the Dungeon Master's Guide for Non-Lethal Combat.
Interesting.
So, plus it's always a nice way to do a bar brawl too.
Bar brawls, which
because that always breaks out when you play D&D.
When you start every adventure in a bar, you're gonna have some brawls.
Yeah. Well, that's just the way it goes. Bar brawls. It's the stigmata of D&D.
It's true. For my article, Gary Gygax writes, "View from the telescope, wondering which end is which." This is the article that Jack last-ish episode, I think, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago.
What page is that on?
It's on page 5. He talks about people bitching about TSR defending their IP, and he gets a little tricky about it.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
I almost chose this one. It's well written, and I can understand his point, but
he gets. I don't know about by the end where he's talking about he's the lion, and people are trying to steal his prey, and he takes
the hyenas
chunks of meat out of it.
Never get the whole thing.
It's like, I understand his point, but I don't know if it's editorializing a bit or hyperbole or what you would call it, but he does have a flourish, a writer's flourish throughout that it's 100% understandable.
Yeah. Well, it's neat because he goes back and he explains how back in the day no company wanted D&D or if anything fantasy, it was a non-starter to them. So he goes to like all the big companies and offers them this game, and nobody wanted it. So he makes his own company, and all of a sudden all these people, now they want to make their own fantasy games.
Yeah.
They want a piece of his pie.
Well, in a sense, it's right though, because this is where we start to see the popularity of D&D start to blossom around.
Oh yeah, and we're going to start seeing a lot more of the copycats. He also talks about AD&D coming out, like the actual rules version coming out in, I think he said the summer at this point. which is like 6 months off. And he starts complaining about knockoffs. And I thought, I wonder how he'd feel about Pathfinder. was Gygax alive when Pathfinder came out, or was he already dead?
I think so, but at that point he'd already lost control.
Yeah.
And I think he was still trying to... The original Pathfinder, I think he came out, and then he started whatever that other role-playing system was, where he's trying to bring it back to him. I can't remember what that was called. So,
yeah.
And then Whiskers got a hold of it and just open licensed it.
Yeah, you got the D20 thing. It is funny it goes. I think it's continued on page like 22 or something. Let me just check. And there's a funny comic that they added at the end of the article. It's Avalon Hill at a convention, and it's saying there might be something to this fantasy nonsense, and it's surrounded by all these fans, and he's like, yeah, they rejected me, and they still don't consider it, like they don't care like I care kind of thing. It's another little jab, which I thought was funny.
What page is that on? 22?
I believe it's on, it's on page 30. Yeah. So, that's pretty funny. You can tell he's pretty angry about this whole thing. It's like, well, I think he even admits it. He's a victim of his own success, where D&D has exploded so much that there obviously is going to be copyright or copycats. But thing he doesn't like, he says he tolerates them with disdain or something like that, the copycats. But he hates. They're going against these people. They're actually using the words D&D in any of their products or trying to license things because hey, it's illegal, and people shouldn't complain about it because hey, it's illegal. They have the right to defend their IP. So like nowadays we're used to this. I think back in the day that was a new thing. Yeah.
He said those are his weekends he spent. Those were all his time that he could have been relaxing or spending time with his family.
Yeah.
That his remuneration is based on his hard work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, there was nothing like D&D other than D&D at this time.
And even fantasy gaming. There wasn't fantasy gaming until D&D came around. So
that's true.
It opened up a whole new genre. So it's interesting. And it was, you could tell he's angry. And I think, later on.
I don't think it's displaced, but it gets a little turned in on itself, and I think that's kind of his downfall, then, isn't it?
Well, and I think later on it really is his downfall in history. If you read about the Gygax legacy, it's he loses control, and that's he gets angry at the people who helped him make this game too. So
same with his brother.
Well, yeah. Anyways. That was my second one. Who was next?
Jack.
Jack.
My second one. Let me take a look. We're going to go to page 29.
Yeah, what's this right here?
Right here.
I think I was going to talk about this one too.
It is a little tiny short review about NBC's The Hobbit. So apparently on a broadcast television network, they aired the Rankin Bass The Hobbit, which I loved as a kid.
That's the cartoon one with the guy with the singing voice, whatever his name was.
Well, it's the where there's a whip, there's a way.
Where there's a whip, there's a way.
Like classics.
So I forget that guy's name who sang it like that, with so much vibrato in his voice during the Shire scenes.
Was that Gomer Pyle, whatever his name was? He did that.
No.
Yeah, this guy hated it.
This guy hated it. And
it is the editor. It's Timothy Kask writing this, so yes.
And he admits, he sort of admits that he's a fanboy. He calls himself like a Tolkien buff. He goes, if you're a Tolkien buff, and I'm sort of like that myself, you would notice. And then he goes into some minutia.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting read of what he picks up. I don't remember the dwarves
being all the same and
all looking the same and being cowardly and stuff. I'm like, I don't remember that, but maybe I'm wrong. This guy must have watched it and he was taking notes while he had the typewriter going.
I will say I do remember being a little bit cowardly, especially in the mines.
Yeah.
It wasn't super bad in the mines, but it was really bad in the barrels.
I haven't seen this movie since I was a child, so.
Yeah.
I do like how he hates Golem, even though the Golem that he describes is exactly what the Peter Jackson Golem is. He's like, I hate this Golem. It's so stupid. And I'm like, that's exactly the Peter Jackson Golem. I don't know if Timothy Cass is still with us, but if he had seen those movies, he must have been like, oh, Rankin and Bass all over again.
Yeah. Like I remember the orcs kind of had frog-like features, and I was like, is he conflating Golem with a orc? But no, he would know. I don't think that he's...
Yeah, the goblins were very, very froggish, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't remember Golem ever being portrayed like just a tainted hobbit in any of the any adaptation. And he mentions that he says, "Oh, he should look like that." And I'm like, "Well, in your mind, he would."
Yeah, no, he was always he was so far not a hobbit that Bilbo didn't recognize him as a hobbit.
Yeah,
he said, "Hey, this is a hobbit. This hobbit looks weird," and he's like, "This is some freaking creature. I know what the hell this thing is."
That was the mid-trilogy plot twist. Yeah. That you're like, oh, what is this creature? And then all of a sudden,
did it to him, yeah.
It goes to the story of him and his brother on the boat, and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Bilbo's been carrying around this ring, and everyone thinks that it can't affect the Hobbit because that's why he's got it, and now that can happen to our boy Bilbo.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think he brought some baggage into this review. I do say
a little bit.
It really read to me like all the Cowboy Bebop reviews I've been reading recently. It's like, why isn't this exactly like the source material? And then it's like, why is this so much like the source material? It's like, make up your minds. You didn't like it.
We have a dearth of entertainment for us now, of sci-fi, fantasy. There's too much to watch right now. This was in the late 70s on network television. Tolkien was on.
Should have just been happy that it was there, not complaining about stuff. Yeah.
I was watching Buck Rogers going, well, this is the height of all the sci-fi I'm ever going to get. Yeah. And I was happy to do it. I don't know. But anyways, yeah. So a little review there.
I always love it when it's the more things change, the more they stay the same. We keep seeing this coming up more and more that in this hobby, in geekdom in general, it's always the same things keep popping up, and it doesn't matter what it is. Luckily, there was no internet, because Mr. Casks there would be on some message board.
They could barely fit his article into this magazine. They had to actually change the font size and the spacing to cram it into where they had the length to do it. So I can only imagine if he had a full-on, if he was writing for, I don't know, BuzzFeed or something, or he was just, let's do this. Of course, now it'd probably be a listicle.
It's true.
Reasons why
18
people hate
reasons why I hate The Hobbit.
And it'd be mostly GIFs and then a little blurb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, what's your next one?
All right, so again, we've been talking about this on multiple platforms about this game, and I was quite surprised to see this article, and I read it, and it was on page 8, and it's called "How Do You Stop That Thing?" And it's a strategery guide on Ogre.
Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, I'm not going to read this one because I know Pat's taking this one.
So, and it's a nice, and if you haven't played Ogre or haven't played it in a while, this is a nice refresher on what the units can do and how they play, and the strategy on how to use them, and how to use the ogre or defend against the ogre.
And I will tell you, I didn't even get the reference. I was 2 paragraphs in, and I'm like, what are they talking about? Like,
You're
I
like,
had no.
why does an ogre need tanks attacking it?
Then it started saying tanks and stuff. I'm like, oh, I remember cover art. I can remember something in my head, cover art for it. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea. And it is literally a wall of text. So I was like, I'm bailing. I got the ripcord day.
Wow. If you've never played Ogre, I don't think there's any reason to read this one.
No.
So, but we talked about Ogre a couple episodes ago when it was an advertisement for, what is that, Metaphysics Games, I guess. I can't remember. But it was the company that Steve Jackson worked for. Steve Jackson started his own company. And then it came up in another podcast, and it's just, I feel like it's just Ogre's. It's fate telling me that I need to actually play a game of Ogre and bust the damn game out.
Like the Ogre itself is relentlessly going across the board.
You need to see this box, Jack. It's got to be like 2 foot by 3 foot.
Jack has seen no, he's never been in your basement. I forgot. He's refused to go down to the Horde. I was going to say he's seen it because it takes up a whole table, but...
Yeah, no. That's just my own mental health conundrum that I wouldn't go down there.
He just dropped to the floor into a fetal position and just start rocking back and forth. Where's the organization? Oh, God.
Does he need to organize it? Well, how about if I just fly you over, Jack, and you just help me organize it?
Well, I think the governments of our respected countries have determined that's not going to happen again for a while. If you read the news today.
Did you guys close up again?
We could travel. I did it.
But
it wasn't easy, but I did it.
It just got worse again. And B, it wouldn't be the organization. It would be, okay, well, there's going to be the throwaway pile. There's going to be the sell pile. There's going to be the gift pile.
Oh no, it's the keep all pile.
Yeah, see, that is where. And then the last pile would be not sentimental value, but like can keep fits in this square area.
That would be everything. The sentimental value.
See, that's where we couldn't come to an agreement.
So, but yeah, it was that was sorry, we got a little sidebar there, but it was that's the article. It was a nice refresher, especially on some tactics and how to play against the ogre.
It is tactically ogering.
It's made me a step closer to buying the Steam version of the game, so I could play it and not have to lug a giant box upstairs.
It's true. Jack, do you have any more articles to talk about?
No, I do not.
Patrick, do you have any more articles?
I don't even have an ad.
I do. I didn't put the page number down, so I don't know where it's at.
Which one is it?
It's from the Sorcerer's Scroll. Where's that at?
Yes, from the
here it is.
It's page 16.
16, yeah. So I liked the Sorcerer's Scroll, and it's also by this Robert Kuntz guy. But it was a little update on the D&D and talks about the monster manual and what I'm assuming is the player's manual, which is the book that Gary Gygax is working on. Should be coming any time now. And what is the talks? There was also different things on talking about fighters, talking about their hit points and the cleric hit point dice, and it was a nice little takeaway to be like, here you go, here's some information from D&D that's coming out for the AD&D. And then it actually goes into how Games Workshop is going to be their distributor and is going to be the White Dwarf is going to be their publication for all things D&D and sci-fi, which again leads us to see how White Dwarf and Game Workshop is starting.
Yep, the beginning of the evil empire.
That's right.
This is when
TSR is the reason why Darth Vader is alive.
That's right. This is when Imperial credits weren't taken, and He had to rent a little boy as his guide, and next thing you know, we
Yeah.
had GW.
Okay.
Haven't you ever watched episode 1? It's all about renting a little boy. I thought you knew about this.
Renting a little boy is not something I thought we'd be discussing on this fine radio program.
What's his master's name? He drives a hard bargain.
Quato?
No, not Quato.
Quato. Quaid.
Wrong one.
Quaid.
So
Anyways, any ads anybody knows? I don't see any special ads in this one. I don't think there's any new ones.
There is one, actually.
What's that?
I don't know where it is either. I don't know why I didn't write the pages down for this damn thing.
Say the name. I have the pages.
It was OrtCon.
OrcCon.
Yeah.
You making up?
I don't even know if it was. No, it was.
Is it under the all the different cons?
It might have been.
Anyways, what about OrcCon?
I was just very surprised to see it. It said return to OrcCon. And so OrcCon was, for me, the conventions I started going to when I started getting back into D&D after I moved to California for college. I mean, I found some D&D people, and so we would take the weekend, I forget what, President's Day weekend was when it was in LA, and we would go down there for 4 days, and we would go to that convention, play a bunch of D&D, play some Games Workshop stuff. And I thought it was cool to see that they were advertising this far back in Dragon Magazine.
Well, I can't find it, so I think it doesn't exist.
It's on page 14. I just found it.
Yeah. And it was in...
It was $2 to pre-register.
Oh, jeez.
Convention.
It's too expensive.
It was at Cal State Fullerton, but then they moved down to a hotel by the airport.
Yeah, it's in the convention schedule. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. OrcCon. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when we see games like we used to go to UBCon in Buffalo. So I was curious to see when that starts up. I don't know how many years it had been going when we started going, but probably not many.
I've been to this DundraCon too in Oakland with a friend of mine who owned a store. I used to go there and work with him.
Well, aren't you the connoisseur of cons?
Well, you know.
A connoisseur, if you will.
I don't get it.
Well, anyways, this has been another episode. Stop your nattering.
Nattering.
We have two things we have to address. We have two things.
What?
One,
that?
The snits are back, and there's 6 pages of snit rules that you
That's
can
true.
I refuse to talk about snits.
There's snit smashing on page 15.
Nope.
And there's even a derivation of the subspecies.
And then you go down to page 33 all the way to the end of the book, and it is all kinds of snit-tacular snittery.
Advanced rules.
You can replacement snorgs with your makeums, and you run the mingatuses. And
one more thing. If you go to page 27, you actually get to see the cosmic encounter in its grand form in the beginning, which is not too different than it is now.
Oh, there's Cosmic Encounter. Yep. The actual board game. Well, there you go.
There it is.
We covered all the aspects.
Last but not least, I seem to remember last week, Pat he's slowly unveiling his purchase that was first debuted
Take it off,
episodes ago.
Show us your goods.
So they're making me...
There it is.
Star
Empires.
Empires.
It's generic space combat rules, which are pretty cool, actually. This was... How much was this originally? $10?
I don't think it was $10, was it?
Was it? Oh, no, it was $5.95.
$5. I think it was $5, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it now.
Yeah, well, you keep telling us, so you're not telling us, so that scares me.
It wasn't $5.95, that's for sure.
I think it was $9, but even that...
But the deluxe set came with the playable map.
Oh my God, he disappeared.
Oh God, I disappeared. Where's
it's like one of those Harry Potter things.
So,
There you go.
It's
I don't understand
butterbeer?
how that's even a map. It's one of those little dots. Planets?
They're planets. Yeah.
Wow.
Different planets and stuff. So,
Nice.
but it's just cruising through it in the last 5 minutes. It's it got some pretty cool generic rules like beam attacks. It's even got ground force troops, so you can incorporate planetary invasions. So,
Well,
now that
exciting.
it's piqued my interest, I'm gonna have to read a little bit more of it. Just like everything else in my life, it takes me a while to get the things.
your game hoard has increased already due to this podcast. Who knows what lies before us?
I see
What
stupid
lies
ads.
ahead?
If I didn't have Cosmic Encounters already, I probably would be something for an old version of Cosmic Encounter after we're done recording.
And he would have bought an Imperial Dragon if we could have found one.
Oh, I definitely would, and I probably would have gifted it to Jack.
Oh God.
Anyways, that's been the episode. We'll be back next week for some more shenanigans. Episode 12 is next week, so until then, go visit our other podcasts, Mobile Arm Radio, Dead Zone the Podcast. That's our old podcast, but it's still going with new hosts.
And for this podcast, though, click the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell.
Yep.
Leave a comment down below. Tell us things.
Scathing comment if you want. All comments are welcome.
Tell us how we're all wrong about anything we've said. Probably it's true. So
It's
Please bully us,
We're definitely on point with some of the things we're saying. So,
Mommy.
Mom,
that's enough. We're out of here. Cut.
bye-bye.